back into another episode of The Mental Fisherman. Welcome back. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And I hope you're all getting along well. I hope you're doing good out there. And I really do appreciate you tuning in and listening to my story so far. We're getting into now how I basically started to rebuild my life. And so I mentioned on the previous episode that I would talk about how I rebuilt my business. There's a much higher possibility if you run your own business that you will run into some mental health struggles. So if you are out there and you are struggling and your business is dragging you down, this might be a good one to tune into. I went from basically wondering if I would ever get back on my feet and how in the hell I could possibly operate at any level close to what I was before I had my breakdown. When I actually stopped and took check of how far behind I was on my client list, how far behind I was in my bookkeeping, my accounting, my invoicing. Oh, man, I was way, I was in such a bad position. I was in way deeper than I thought I was. I knew I was in the shit. I knew I was struggling to keep up. But man, when I actually hit the wall and sat back and took a minute to actually assess where I was at, I was in the shit. My business was, I was out there and I was swinging. I was trading hard and doing a good job for my customers. I was giving it my all, and we've got a pretty good reputation as being reliable and being on time and all those sort of things. But man, I had so many loose ends on jobs and so many invoices that were unpaid and hadn't even been issued yet, and I was so far out of touch. I was just working in my business so much that I forgot to work on it. And I think that's really important to remember, that as a business owner, you actually need to spend more time working on your business than in the business, because working on the business and making things efficient and making sure that you got to have processes in place. And the idea is to build your business so it can be turnkey. Now, that's a phrase that I learnt by taking myself to a bit of a business improvement seminar, which, I mean, eventually the idea was that you would sign up to these guys and they would, help you rebuild your whole business. But I basically took inspiration from going to that one meeting for an hour or so, whatever it was. And I took that inspiration and thought, you know what, I can do this. I'm going to rebuild my business. I'm going to work on my business, not in my business, to make it the most efficient and bring back the balance into my life. Bring back the life-work balance. Have more time for my kids, have more time for my wife, have more time to just sit, throw a ball for a dog, play a bit of sport, go bloody fishing, for crying out loud. Spend more time on the water doing what you actually love doing. All of those things, which they were happening now and then, but I was never really there. I was always on the job. I always had my mind on the job. I was never able to actually disconnect from that. And so when you don't disconnect from that, you're never really in the right headspace to rest, to give your brain a rest. So I went to this one seminar and learnt some strategies that I then came home and done some research into, and done some online research into mindset for business owners, and how it is possible to actually not be the one doing all the work hours, but still be profitable and still be successful in business by working on your business and working on the processes to make your business a turnkey business. So basically anyone can walk into, hello dog, go on, out you go. So anyone can walk into your business, turn the key and operate it. And that was the idea with myself and my co-workers at the time, was to enable them, give them the power to be able to walk into the business and operate it, even if I actually wasn't physically on the job or even contactable. Basically, I could work on my business. I didn't have to be on the tools the whole time, and it could still be profitable that way. Of course, profit margins dropped because basically I'm trying to draw a wage of a business, but I'm not doing so much actual physical work, so therefore there's not as much claimable time. But what was happening up till that period is I had subcontractors and I was taking on jobs where it had become a bit of a cluster. Like there was mistakes being made. I didn't have time to chase up quoting materials, so we're paying too much for materials. I was making mistakes on quotes, so before we even started on a job, we're already going to be behind. And so there was a lot of mistakes and a lot of inefficiencies within my business. And so I set about the process of eliminating them. I employed an electronic workflow program. I spent several $1,000s implementing that program, being trained and training my employees in that program as well, so that we all had contact with all the information of all the different jobs at any given time. So it's all done through, obviously I've got a desktop computer, which is the main, the web platform for that particular website, but also it was all in our hands on our devices. So any one of my guys could grab their phone, jump onto that and find out. There's notes, there's timesheets, the whole bit. It's invoicing, it's the whole lot. It's a complete workflow management program. It did revolutionise the way that I operated my business, and it did help to save my business. And that was one of the things that I'd done to basically get myself back on my feet and ensure that my business was able to trade while I was still able to have a balance in my life and have a life outside of work. I changed the business structure. I changed and made the business into a company, and then I started to draw a wage on that company rather than just having all the, what do you bloody call it? All the sales, all the profit going just into my bank account. It starts to go into the company account, and then I draw a wage off that. And it was a bit of a separator to separate myself from being the company, being the business. I was, able to separate a little bit and become just an employee of the business. And that was one of the things I worked on. Things like making sure that our supplies were, the prices were good. Vehicles were tidy and efficient, that we had the right level of stock and all those sort of things. I really started to work on the efficiency of my business, and at first it seems like you're going to go broke. Like, how could I possibly reduce the amount of hours that I spend physically working and being able to claim for? How could I possibly reduce that by a bloody serious amount? I went from doing 60 plus hours to, doing 40 and even less some weeks. In the initial stages after I bloody hit the wall, I was hardly doing anything at all as far as being on the tools go. And slowly I worked my way back into it. But how is it possible that you can actually do it? It's possible because when you take check of how your business is operating and how many leaks you've got and how many leaks that you've got in your cash flow where money is just being wasted, you start to plug all those leaks, and you soon find out that it's not only possible, but it's majorly advantageous to work on your business rather than in it. And so that's what I've done, and that's what I still do now. I'll make sure that I spend a fair bit of time working on my business, chasing leads and being efficient that way, trying to uphold a good customer rapport, chasing contracts, investigating which contract suits us best, where our next line of work should come from, and which ones to pursue and which ones to say no to. And it is important to be able to pick those apart and say no to the wrong customers, because there is such a thing as a wrong customer, and no, the customer isn't always right. They are sometimes not only wrong, but they're wrong for your business. And so it is possible to rebuild from what seems like a demise, but you do have to keep in mind that there are a lot of stresses in running your own business. You need to have support around you. You need to have the right employees, the right people working for you and with you. I've always taken pride in making sure that I've got a tight-knit crew that we can talk and communicate, and if there's an issue with the way things are going or whatever that might be, I like to make sure that I'm open and able to take those things on board and adjust accordingly. All those sort of things really do add up to making it so that you've got less chance of succumbing to mental illness because of how busy you are with your own business. Business is a great opportunity to be able to work really, really hard. And realistically, that is one of the major differences between working for yourself and working for somebody else, is that you get the chance to work more. But there's a bit of a misconception where it's like, works for himself, he can do whatever the hell he wants. That's actually harder to take a sick day when you work for yourself than it is for when you work for somebody else. Sometimes it's a person, it's me that says, you can't afford a day off. Like, when are you going to get that job done or things like that? But it's possible. Not only possible, but I think it needs to be done. You need to take control over your business. So for those of you who are out there running your business who might be struggling, I think I just lost track completely of where I was going. But for those of you who are out there and running your own business, good on you. Stick with it. If it's the right business, it'll work out. Make sure it's efficient. Make sure you're working on it as much as in it. Iron out those kinks, chase up those leads, and keep at it. Like I said, you do have an opportunity to work harder than anybody else, to do more hours, but you don't necessarily need to do more hours. You just need to do more efficient hours. So, yeah. That's the business side. That's how I basically kept going, how I got myself up out of that hole and dragged my business up with it and worked on my business. And it's still trading today and it's still successful. And I still enjoy what I do. I enjoy running my own business and the challenges. I've come to re-embrace those challenges. Sometimes it can be conflict. Sometimes it's just a challenging job, physically, mentally, whatever it might be. And I've come to embrace that again and enjoy that. So there is light at the end of the tunnel if you are, struggling with your business as well. So keep at it, guys. And if you can't, that's okay too. Talk to some other professionals, seek some advice, and work it out. Work out what's best for you. Thanks again, guys. Catch you on the next one.